As the #1 Evolve fan on YouTube, I am insanely excited for Back 4 Blood. I've been following the game since it was just a name, and Turtle Rock Studios is finally ready to let me play in less than 48 hours, and I cannot freaking wait. So today we're going over everything there is to know about Back 4 Blood. I'm so ready to be back in a Turtle Rock Studios cooperative shooter monster zombie chaos fest. I cannot freaking wait. If you agree, smash that like button. Let me know if you are going to be playing in the comments down below. And here we go. Basically, it's cleaners versus ridden in Left 4 Dead 3. Now, every time I see anything Back 4 Blood, I try to squeeze the evolved DNA out of it. I try to search beneath the surface for elements of my favorite game. And I still see some of them, so that has me very intrigued. But this really is Left 4 Dead 3. The ridden are the new parasite-infested people. Cleaners are the good guys. So we'll start there. 8 cleaners in the game. 8 human characters to play as. There's 4 in the alpha, and I've already got them ranked for you. It goes Holly, Walker, Evangelo, Hoffman. They each have their own unique character perk. They each have their own unique secondary weapon. At first, I thought you could kind of tell based on their pose and what they were holding. It looks like, one has a bat. Holly has the bat. It looks like Evangelo has a sword. But then Hoffman is holding just like a assault rifle. And Walker's holding a pistol, so I'm not sure that is 100% exactly what they've got. We'll have to wait and see. But those are the characters that will carry their personality into the fray. And honestly, the way that they realize these characters will go, I think, a long way in defining whether Back 4 Blood has the charm and the longevity of Left 4 Dead. Because remember, this game is about playing through a cooperative campaign of increasingly difficult missions. So it is not a multiplayer-only fest like Evolve. It is bringing back a cooperative campaign. There is multiplayer, there is PvP, which will be ridden versus cleaners. So just like Left 4 Dead 2, you're going to be able to play as the bad guys, you're going to be able to play as the good guys, but the main mode is this cooperative story campaign. And the characters' lore, their camaraderie with each other, their voice acting, it's all going to be very important, I feel. The ridden are also going to be important. They've got a lot of new baddies, but many of them bear resemblance to former creatures that Turtle Rock has crafted. So we've got the new common ridden, which are basically zombies. We've got the new stinger, which is like the spider one. Some called it the hawker, but it's the stinger. It's basically the hunter, except it's got 4 arms, and it looks a little more ferocious. You've got the Wretch, which is basically a mix of a boomer and also a spitter because it's big and fat like a boomer, but it spits like a spitter. You've got the Tall Boy, which is kind of like a Charger tank hybrid, and then there's promised to be more of these, quote, special ridden. I think they'll definitely have more than 3. And as I noted in my first video, it's interesting to see the time to death of these different ranked ridden. You've got the basic guys that go down in a flash, but I felt like the specials, at least in the trailers we've seen, and maybe the players are just perfect, but it looks like the specials here go down faster. Their TTD is quite short, and maybe that opens things up for the Ogre, which is the first of the giant monsters revealed. I like to call this guy Goliath's brother, but he is one of the first 20 feet tall monsters that Turtle Rock is revealing. These are going to be hunting you and chasing you boss battle style through the levels. We still do not know how these levels end, but as this bears more and more resemblance to Left 4 Dead, I'm expecting a big standoff with either multiple of the 20-foot tallers or just one of them that is back and hungrier than ever before. What's interesting, though, is that these rounds are going to be modified not only by the game director, who is making this a very unique affair, reacting to your movements, deciding how to throw things at you, how sizable the horde should be, which special ridden to toss your way. There's also this card system. They call it a rogue-like card system, which I think is fascinating because that implies that you're going to be going on runs, right? It implies that you're going to see how many missions you can get through before tapping out. And they talk about decks, like they show off these cards as if like, oh, you're just picking the cards you want to use, but they also talk heavily about decks. And it bears a lot of resemblance to me to like a deck building board game / card game. You even see on the graphic that they have like a slot for draw, for your hand, for burn cards, for cards to play. There's 8 slots across the board, but I cannot imagine that you're playing 8 cards, each player, for a grand total of 32 cards. That seems like a crap ton of bonuses, because these cards are going to house things like a little bit better accuracy, a little bit more health. There's some really interesting ones as well. One that I love is your team gains an extra life, but loses 20% health. That is a very big gamble, but it's one that can probably be mitigated by another player's card, maybe one that boosts health in exchange for maybe, I don't know, slower reload time. But what's interesting here is that they do show 3 at once, so I'm wondering if you can play 3 per mission. But I believe that the deck is going to be persistent throughout the missions, throughout your quote roguelike run. I think you're going to draw from your deck, decide what you play, save the rest for later. And that's why you're going to have to coordinate carefully with your teammates to build the best loadout possible based on the mission at hand. And you do have a little bit of insight into that thanks to the corruption cards, which is the game director playing its own cards, alerting you to what kind of ridden will be present in the level, as well as any special modifiers such as fog, ammo scarcity, or larger hordes. Now this is a really interesting system where you get to directly combat what the game is throwing at you. And I hope that this feels meaningful. I hope that your decisions kind of come through. Like there are clutch moments where you're like, goodness gracious, I'm glad we had that extra life. Where you're like, thank goodness we brought extra ammo because they threw so many ogres at us, it was almost unbeatable. I'm really glad that we went for more copper because we needed to get better items. And what the heck is copper? There's this card that shows copper as a resource in the game. Now, initially, I thought maybe copper was what you'd use to buy card packs, but they do say that cards will be acquired and accrued through completing challenges and progressing through the game. So maybe copper is an in-game resource to buy skins or different voice packs or things of that sort. Unlock new missions, I don't know. More likely, though, copper is an in-mission resource used to spend on items, because as we see the pickup for the medkit, it says free. Now, I'm assuming that some items are going to cost currency. I could be wrong. It could be for out-of-mission card packs, which would be fun as long as they don't, if they're in-game currency, it's fine. Or it would be in-mission currency, where you're going to be using this to pick up items, and your team will have to decide what to spend on. Perhaps you can spend on armor, perhaps you can spend on medkits, maybe the equivalent of pills and adrenaline. Now, they show you swapping out weapons, and the weapons have no cost. It just says swaps. This is interesting. Will there be some weapons that are locked behind a copper gate, or will all weapons just be exchangeable? Is there no paid items? But it's very interesting to me that the medkit says free. If there is not anything that costs, why is one thing need to be labeled as free? Alas, the weapons have a star ranking and rating system that determines the rarity / specialness / strength of the weapon, and it also alerts you to how many different attachment slots it has, whether it can hold more ammo, whether it can hold a scope, whether it can hold a number of different things. We see a weapon that is 4 stars and has 4 attachment slots, a weapon that is 3 stars and has 4 stars and has 3 attachment slots. So the attachment slots and the star rating don't correlate hand in hand, but I bet the more stars you go, the more attachments you're likely to get. But that is very good, and I do hope that there's more benefit here for picking up new weapons. I would say for me as a Left 4 Dead fan, I didn't really find a ton of incentive to switch weapons. Like, it was more out of necessity than it was out of choice. Because I ran out and I needed to just grab something new. I kind of locked in my favorite weapons, and if I didn't have to, I wouldn't swap out. But I hope that the way the missions are structured and maybe the sequence of events forces you to switch up your strategy on the go. Again, we still don't really know the structure or the length of these missions, and the alpha that begins on Thursday is going to have one of the early missions. Now, I'm assuming that these missions are divided by safe houses, but I'm not quite sure. You do start in a safe house, but it's not clear if the missions are going to have 4 different segments within the mission, or if each mission is safe house to safe house. Now, it would make sense that the card deck choices would happen within the safe houses. But if there are safe houses, multiple safe houses per mission, I don't believe we'll be picking cards every couple minutes. I think we'll be picking cards for the entire mission and letting it roll. Now, there could be both safe houses and 1 card draw per mission. Curious to see how that goes. And where the evolved DNA really shows its face is with the ogre. He is big, he is brutal, and he can manipulate the environment. I think that's where you start to see some of the behemoth stuff showing through, where you see the ogre peel off the gate and start crawling through the tunnel. He's able to reach through a door and grab one of the cleaners and really make things difficult for your team. We haven't learned much about the death mechanic, although I'm assuming it's very similar to Left 4 Dead, where you get popped and then you pop back into a closet or a door somewhere. But it could be totally different. I'll be very curious how they handle that. I think it's going to be interesting how much they choose to deviate from Left 4 Dead, because plenty of players would be totally happy with a Left 4 Dead 3, right? Like, totally fine. And then some people would want this to be a real evolution of the formula. I think either way, it's going to be good. I think either they will learn from Evolve and incorporate a lot of that to make this hybrid Left 4 Dead Evolve type game, or it will truly feel like Left 4 Dead 3, and like neither of those are a bad thing. I would obviously prefer there to be more Evolve, but at least I'm getting the big monsters that are clearly inspired by what they created in Evolve. Now, for me, what's really interesting is in that competitive mode where it says you get to play the Ridden, do you get to play the Ogre? And will the Ogre control as amazingly and as flexibly as the big monsters from Evolve. Because if we're able to basically get a mini version of Goliath and his moveset here, that's amazing. And if the competitive multiplayer mode isn't just going through the mission maps as the bad guys or the good guys, but they found a way to really do PvP right, and it feels like a more balanced Evolve where you have a squad of 4 against a squad of 4, and it's not just 1-on-4, which I feel was too difficult for a lot of people to take in and created imbalances. And unless your team was really fully stocked, the monster could wreck through you, and if the monster was terrible, it became unfun. If 4-on-4 allows them to have better balance and more balanced matches, I mean, I'm so for that. I just hope that you do get to control the ogre, and I'm very curious to see what other 20-foot tall terrors they have chosen to include in this game. There's still so much to learn, but I lean towards Left 4 Dead sensibilities at every moment, because it really does seem like that in terms of, you got the 4 characters, you can pick up new items, you got the med packs, you got the safe houses, you got the special infected that are special ridden that are very close to the special infected. It just bears a lot of similarities. I'm curious how the character perks in particular are going to play out, and I'm curious if this deck system is going to feel, like I said, like it makes a difference. Is it just candy on the surface to say that, hey, we've got this, you can pull cards because everyone loves loot boxes and everyone loves roguelikes, or is there really a good use for it? Does it really modify gameplay and feel like more than just a strange way to smash A as you click through? Are the choices going to be paramount to your progress and survival, and how do they reward you with progress? Is copper the way they do it in-game or out of game? How are you going to be evolving? Because in a roguelike, there needs to be meta progress for it to really feel like a satisfying experience. And in my experience with Left 4 Dead, the fun existed within the rounds, and that was it. It was plenty great, but I'd love if there was some carryover, some way that your character, your account, your deck, which is probably where that upgrading will exist, is affected based on how you play. Perhaps you'll get better cards that then you can use for longer rounds and better playthroughs. I'm just curious how all the rewards are going to work and how the structure of this is all going to work. And hopefully we'll uncover more during the alpha, but probably not, because we're just getting one mission. So I bet a lot of that overall infrastructure, that foundation, the way that the game moves from minute 1 to minute 60 won't be clear until later in 2021. Remember, the game doesn't launch till June, so I'm just excited that we get to play it this week, and I cannot wait to share all of that with you. Let me know your favorite cleaner thus far in the comments down below, and if you are hyped for this game, I would love to hear about it. Smash that like button. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I'll see you guys with gameplay soon. Until that time, have a fantastic freaking day. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay smart out there. Watch out for freaking stingers, aka hawkers, aka hunters. And until next time, thanks again, drink some hot chocolate, and we'll see you all alive.